All right, let's get to our guest today without any further ado. I've known this gentleman at least a long time, 20 years maybe. I met Vince many times. Vince LoCascio, great guy. And we met him through mutual friends that we had before we met. Vince was nice to give me a couple shows, a couple performing dates at Nick's Fish Market when he was there downtown. Performed there a few times, which was great. And we always stayed friends. So this man, not being a great Italian guy, of course. Second of all, started as a garbage man for many years, and I can't wait to find out that story. I always want to know what it was like to be a garbage man because it's a tough job. Then he went into the restaurant business successfully with Nick's Fish Market and Gibson's. So he's been around. And then he's one of the first guys I knew locally that did his own cable show called One Busy Guy. And he's always one busy guy. The show ran pretty good. And I hear through the grapevine, he's going to bring that show back. So without any further ado, my good pal, Vince LoCascio. Vince, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How you doing, Tony? Thank you for having me on.
With the beautiful background there, Sicily jacket. I want to thank you for being on, buddy. I hope you're doing well. And a lot of people know you out there in the restaurant business and one busy guy. But let's find out real fast a little bit about you, just a little bit about the inside of Vince. Vince LoCascio, where were you born, my friend?
I was born in the St. Elizabeth's Hospital. No, I was born, in the city. I'm from the city of Chicago. It's in my blood. I love Chicago. I'm from what I call it the Austin District. And the word district actually applies to the police departments, but I always say the Austin District. That's where I'm from, like Chicago and Laramie.
There you go. And you had a big family, obviously. You had a big family, Vince?
Yeah, a lot of cousins. The story was typical of the two flats, where we were on the first floor, grandma and grandpa upstairs, and then three flats, all cousins. So
yeah. And
great way to grow up.
LoCascio, if I'm pronouncing that right, what part of Italy is that from?
Sicily.
Sicily. Do you have relatives or family out there, Vince? Have you been out there?
I have. We still have some cousins there that we stay in touch with as best as possible. They visit here, but a big contingent of the group and the family moved to Chicago, to the Chicago area.
Yeah, Vince. Let me ask you something. If you had the chance, would you move to Italy?
I would. If the time was right. It's a whole different way of life, but it's something I could see maybe in retirement enjoying. I don't know if I see that happening for a while, but I would. How about you?
No, I don't think I would. I would.
I know you're asking the question.
Vince, it's like you said, it's a whole different lifestyle compared to what we got up here. And we're so used to here and family and everything I have, but I've been there like 6 or 7 times. So I do love it. We're from Italy. We're from the northern part. We're from Lucca. We're Toscana. We're on the northern side. But to me, the way I look at it now, another quick question. When they ask you, Vince, are you Italian or are you Sicilian?
I'm Sicilian, but I gotta say, on my mother's side, they're from the province of Basilicata.
Okay.
So that's where we're from, yeah. On that
okay.
Side.
So you, but okay. So there you go. That's.
But if people ask me if I'm, are you Italian? I said no, I'm Sicilian.
There you go.
And then all the wisecracks come out.
Yeah, and everything comes out after that. Right.
Yeah.
But to me, to be honest with you, I've never had that thing where, oh God, if you're Barese or you're Napolitano or you're Sicilian. To me, we're all in the same boot. You guys are a little off the boot, but we're still all Italians in my book. That's just me.
Exactly. I totally agree with you.
I totally agree with you too. All right, so it's interesting. I mean, you had an incredible life, Vince. You met a lot of different people. You've done a lot of different things. You put your foot in a lot of different puddles, as they would say. But I always admired the garbage men. And I'm going to tell you something. My show, usually I bring on people from entertainment or in the restaurant or movies and stuff like that. We had a lot of different guests on. But I've had lawyers on, nurses on. I've had people, plumbers on. I've had people from all sorts of life, which is very important in this world. Garbage men, first of all, I always thought that was a cool job, to be honest with you. How did you get into it? Was your family into it? How did someone say, hey, Mom, I'm going to go be a garbage man? How did that work out?
Yeah, the nuns used to make me throw the garbage out after school because I was bad. No, I got to tell you, and I believe you're the same generation as me, but growing up where I grew up, if you had a city job, you were as respected as if you were a doctor, But the political part of it was, becoming an assistant precinct captain, and it was 3 of the best years of my life, being part of the whole political machine. Ringing doorbells for Mayor Richard J. Daley, seeing all that as a young kid being 19. And then, I did the ropes, whatever I had to do to get the job. And I got to tell you, of all the, the things that I've done, meeting with the restaurant industry, meeting all the stars, the politicians, everybody, those 3 years were some of the best years of my life. Being a young guy in the city of Chicago, and I mean in the tough parts, saw a lot of stuff. It's a great experience. And I'm glad that you salute the garbage men, because everybody needs them. But some people will look at it as a humble way of life and say, well, oh, that's dirty, and this and that. You know what? When they go on strike like they did in New York, what happens to the city?
I was going to say that you've seen what those streets were like. And let me tell you something, no job is good if you don't get your hands dirty every now and then. And you being even in my business, on your business, Vince, even though you're about the maitre d' or the manager, whatever you do with these restaurants, something goes down, Vince, you got to take over. So It's not like, so you got to get your hands dirty. I see a lot of guys in the restaurant business that are owners, they don't do anything. But then I see a lot of guys who are owners, and they're there. If they have to wash the dish, if they have to cook, if they have to do it, they'll do it. And that's what makes us all successful. And I think that's very important. I got to ask you something. You find a lot of stuff. What was the best thing you found that somebody threw out?
Well, it's funny that you say, I don't know if it was the best, but we really thought we hit the jackpot. I was I worked the Taylor Street area for a while. There was like 3 or 4 shoes stuffed. I'm talking with cash. But as you took it out, it just crumbled. It was shot. So that was fun, but that was kind of.
And you took the money and you split it with your guys, I hope, or did you just put it on?
I can't answer that question, Your Honor.
I can't answer that question. Yeah. So that's a great job. And you know what? And I see the garbage men by us all the time. I always say hi. I gave him one cigar once. So same with my mailman, and same with people that work for you, and try to keep the neighborhood and try to keep everything clean. It's a great job. All right. So 3 years, here you are, garbage man. I've seen the pictures, and a little longer hair. You were like a rebel back then. All of a sudden, you clean yourself up a little bit. You put that nice hairstyle, put a nice suit on, and you get into the restaurant businesses.
Yeah.
Now, did that come to you by accident, Vince, or did someone in your family? How did that come about to you?
Divine inspiration. No, it didn't happen by accident, but it was destiny. I'll try to tell you the short version because one day I'm going to write the book about it. But I had some buddies that were stationed in Hawaii in the Army. Another buddy of mine that I went to see him, they said, if you're going to stick around, you're going to have to get a job. I got a job cleaning Nick's Fish Market as the cleanup guy, whatever. Worked there for maybe 4 or 5 months. Had the opportunity to meet Nick. And then came back here. That's when I did the garbage man thing for 3 years. When Nick opened up in Chicago, I called him, like a million other people did, and said, hey, remember me? I used to work for you and stuff. But sure enough, he did. And I met with him. And right at that time, I wanted to become a chauffeur. At that time, the only people that had limousines were funeral homes and, the black limousines and all that. And I don't know what it gave me the confidence, but I said, how are you going to be getting around town? He said, I'm having a stretch limousine built, which that was one of the first 2. And I said, do you have a chauffeur? He goes, no. I said, well, I'm going to be your chauffeur. I told him, and he goes, oh, really? I said, yeah. And he gave me the opportunity from a garbage man. He knew me, that I knew the Knicks philosophy and all that. But he gave me that opportunity. And there I was the next thing you know, 1 week I'm in dirty gloves and filthy. The next week I'm sitting in front of faces in a stretch limousine waiting for, hanging out. So it was quite fun, quite an experience.
And like I said, you went from one stream to the other, and it's still a service for people that they need. At that time, a garbage man, a limo guy. I mean, I feel bad for the limo guys now because Uber took these people out of business. But I even feel bad for the taxi guys. I always respected those guys in those taxis. That's a tough job back then. And back then when you had to know the city where you were working, now you just put that address in the machine and it OnStar or whatever and tells you where to go. A little easier. But now with Uber now and everything like that, who knows? But I always believed in those kind of jobs. I thought was very cool. And when you're in front of the restaurant business, Nick's Fish Market, how long were you there, Nick?
30 years.
Okay, let me ask you something. Been there 30 years. And what do you think the difference between when you first started in the restaurant business compared to the restaurant business now?
Culture. You know what? Dress codes, the whole time of, like in the 80s and the 90s, people were partying a lot differently then. But culture, people used to dress up. If you had a dress code now at some places, you'd be empty,
Yeah.
and I'm not knocking it. I'm just making I'm making an observation, but it has changed. And, that's changed. Computers have completely changed the industry. I used to have a book like this, with pens and highlighters and all that, markers. Now I can do everything, on the phone. It's on a computer still at work, but you can walk around on your phone and see what tables are up and this, that. And as far as, numbers and the Excels and all the computers and stuff, that's going to change completely, I believe.
Yeah, and I can see that. And the dress code, to me, it still irks me. It still irks me when I see, and I'm talking about a fine dining establishment. I'm talking about a Gibson's. I'm talking about a Nick's Fair. I'm talking about Chicago Prime Steakhouse. I'm talking about a fine dining spot. When you walk in and you see baseball hats the other way, you see gym shoes. I can't stand the khaki pants, the brown shoes, all that stuff. It just drives me nuts. And unfortunately, just like you said, you can't stop it because that's just the way it is. But I remember the time in certain places, Vince, I don't even know if you guys did this at Nick's Fish Market, but if you needed a tie or the Palmer House, certain place, you didn't have one, they'd give you a jacket.
Oh,
and
yeah.
a tie. They had a closet full of stuff that you would have to put on. It might not be the best looking tie or the best looking jacket, but you needed one to sit down at those restaurants. So
Well,
30 years, 30 years at Nick's Fish Market. What would you say the biggest tip you ever got? Someone walked in, Vince, I need a table. What was the biggest tip you ever got at Nick's? Come on, somebody had to give you. Wait, answer another quick question. When they still are full, they're completely full. Can't get you in. But someone hands you something, all of a sudden, miraculously, there's a table. Now, tell me something, Vince. When the restaurants say they're packed, are they really always packed? Or do they keep
Yes. You know what? People? It's good that you asked that question because that was, as they say, that was a few questions you asked at the same time. The biggest tip I ever got was if it rains, bring an umbrella. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, that's all.
No, restaurants are, they're trying. You know what I mean? We used to have a guy that people came in and they didn't have a reservation. He'd say, well, I'm sorry that you didn't. Back then, he'd say, I'm sorry you didn't get a hotel room that has a phone in it. Just call. I'm glad I can even vocalize that, but just call. Walk-ins happen. That's great. But especially in this day and age, people are making reservations on their phone and blah, blah, blah. But, if you want to get in, just call. It makes things a lot better.
It makes things a lot better. And, being in the business, like you said, the difference between the tips, and I hear people complaining all the time. People come out $300-400 check. Some people don't even tip 20%, which I think they should, maybe even more, especially because these servers work their ass off and the maitre d's, all these people work hard. I know people come into conventions when they come in from Europe. They don't tip in Europe.
Yeah, that was always a big thing. They didn't tip in Europe. You're right. But that's their living. I salute you so much that you give shout outs to people that do work hard, and especially, like the dishwashers, Tony, the guy that, Nick, that I used to work for, one day, they were throwing stuff at the dishwasher, no respect, this and that. He sent them all home. He said, try to operate a restaurant with no clean dishes.
I got a guy that works at, I got a guy at Chicago Prime Steakhouse, Geronimo. This guy works his ass off, and he's picking up the plates and bringing them up and back and forth. I mean, this guy just nonstop, and it's a tough job being in the restaurant business, especially if you're in the fine dining, high-profile restaurants. Now, here you go, Nick's Fish Market was very respectful, and now you hit the cream of the crop at one time, and probably still is. I don't know. I haven't been to Gibson's in a while, but then you go to Gibson's. And was there a big difference between Gibson's and Nick's Fish Market, the way that it's run?
No, not the way they're run. I can be fair and tell you that whether it's hot dog stand or it is fine dining, if you're providing good food and good service, that's, whether it's a hot dog stand, no disrespect to hot dog stand,
no, right,
all the way up to the fine dining, that's all people want, but between the two, No, they're both excel in perfection and providing good service. That's what
And great
people want.
service.
That's what they pay for.
And remember, folks, word of mouth, especially now, somebody screws up in a bad experience in that restaurant, they get on that app and destroy the restaurant. Yeah, and not only destroy the restaurant, but destroy that server. And that can't go away once that stuff is logged on to those it takes some money to get that stuff off, and it's horrible. You're watching a little show about big things. Of course, Ocean's Pit, my good buddy, Chicago legend, in my opinion. Of course, great. You're the best, man. Vince LoCascio. Time for a quick sponsor. Are you looking to buy or sell a home? One-stop shop. We're talking about Ray Denardis from Bard and Warner, 630-973-9115. If you're looking to buy or sell a home. And I love his slogan, building friendship from one home at a time. That's Ray Denardis at Bard and Warner, 630-973-9115. All right, Vince, Gibson's, Nick's Fish Market. Now, you're always a personality. The maitre d' always is a personality. It's definitely a character. A lot of people go to restaurants because that guy is going to be there at the door. That guy is going to take care of them. Every restaurant had a guy. Stan from Jilly's, Vince from you. I mean, if everybody had a different guy, Dimitri at Lola's and Alexander's and all those places. There's always, Benny at the Tavern on Rush. Always some guy there that people went to, and it was. But you always had a personality, and you always had that character. What made you get into? I love the show, One Busy Guy. I was honored to be on the show. You had a lot of different people on. What made you get into that?
Well, it was kind of an evolution from instead of like I said, I was Nick's chauffeur. Instead of standing around, not just being a chauffeur waiting for the ride. I was assisting the maitre d's, the reservationists, as they call it, and then just kind of evolved into it. But I got to be fair and tell you that being a garbage man and learning to be able to speak to the people, I don't know what to use their category, but I promise you, I could speak from anybody from this category all up to, a zillionaire, because if you try to talk, at their level and just make them, just to listen to them, all people want you is to listen, and I think that character of being a priest captain, this and that, talking to people is what maitre d's do. And welcoming.
To be honest with you, there's a lot of guys out there. I call it like a chameleon, because you can talk to a garbage man, a plumber, a guy that's working from a factory, or the CEO of a company, or a celebrity, or a politician. A lot of people don't know how to talk to both people. It takes a certain talent to do that. You're very good at that. Stan's very good at that. There's a lot of guys who know how to do that. All the places that I work at, Jimmy Marchese at River, Greg from Taverna, Ari at Chicago Prime. They know how to talk to people when they walk in that door. And that's very important. The show was successful. What I liked about you had the talk show type setup. You had the table, the Johnny Carson, the cup, in pencil, and you had your guest sitting on the chair. And I know I watched it a couple of times when you had Vic Giannotti on. I know you had the English guys on. You had a lot of great guys on. And I hear, is it true that you might be bringing this back?
Well, I am. The big thing. You are my hero. Let me tell you, for what you and Laura are doing with the show, the way technology has changed. But I also, your persistence that you do the show every day. I salute you. I would like to be able to do something like that, but also, on location, I think is everything.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. I did, recently a couple shows with Carlo Oliveri with Revolution Guitars, and being at his store, with all the guitars, now he sells vinyl and all that. That was your shout out, Carlo, by the way.
There you go.
On location is
everything. That free guitar now to Vince.
But being on location,
it makes sense. And now, Vince, I hired a publicist, Bernie DeMaio, who gets me in the newspaper, gets me on certain things. I can't get on TV right now because right now a lot of people don't want to have anybody in the studio because of the COVID. And the Zoom thing is great, and I like it because we get to do this. But I think it's very important the way you do it. And I love the name of the show, One Busy Guy, because It is what it is. It's true. You are a busy guy, and you were, and what you do. And now let's get down to another point. COVID-19 hits March 13th. It hit my last gig I did Friday the 13th um, at Chicago Prime Steakhouse that Friday. And it's the day after, on the 14th, we had to post a show in Bristol, Wisconsin, but that got canceled. I mean, when you hear about it on the news, Vince, from your co-workers, your doctor, your family, whatever, COVID hits, what was the first thing you thought, excuse me, for your family first, health-wise, and then for your business?
Well, it's a tough question to ask because I don't think, I'm older. I've been through the Kennedy assassination, 9/11, all the things that have happened that really truly impacted the world. But I know nobody knew how bad this was going to be.
Right.
I could just share a little anecdote with you. When the announcement was being made at work, in the meeting that, we're shutting down tomorrow, it started getting, like, this is real. But right before the meeting started, I ate something, and it kind of got caught in my throat. And now it's to the point where everybody's like, if something's wrong with you, you're sneezing, you got the cooties. So I walk into the meeting, and I'm like, and nobody knows. I stepped out of the meeting like twice, because then I go in the kitchen like, straightening my throat. But it's changed everything. I don't know if I could really say what I felt then, other than there's trouble. And then when all the restaurants, when everybody shut down, it was crazy.
Well, you know what's, and a lot of restaurants did not shut down. They had their tents, they had their parking lots, they had, different things. Every town, I noticed, handled different. What I remember from a lot of different towns, the mayors would say, hey, do what you got to do. But you had to worry about the health department coming in and closing you down. And there were still people that were afraid. And it seems like it's opening up a little bit. And that's a good thing. And I think some different places are still with the precautions. Some people still wear the mask when they come in. A couple restaurants that I work at will let you, when you're dancing, when you come up and dance, they still want you to wear a mask. Okay, when you're dancing. So, hey, I've had people flip me off, tell me to go F myself, and walk out of the restaurant. And it's not my rules, it's not the restaurant's rules. It's just that they don't want to get in trouble. And, so you got to try to do the best you can for the times. Now, they think that things are getting better now. Some people are getting vaccine, some people aren't, whatever it is, whatever to eat. And I always say this to everybody out there, man, it's to each his own. If you don't feel safe, don't go out of the house. If you don't want to get the vaccine, don't get the vaccine. It's up to you, to whatever you think fits you and your agenda and your family. You're watching Ocean's Pit, the little show about big things, folks. And remember, we got my good buddy on, Vince LoCascio. And before we let him go, we got a couple other things. But it's time for
Tony, there was only one guy that did not have a problem that I asked to wear a mask. And that was the Lone Ranger.
Who was that? Oh,
bingo.
All right. I got to tell you, tell you a story that you're going to love. Folks, now that everything is opening up again, weddings, parties, portraits, people need a photographer, people need video. Time for CC Photo Chicago. You call my buddy Chuck at 630-674-8081 or Chuck at ccphotochicago.com. Get that photographer, get the videos, get a portrait of the family, support local talent. I'm going to tell you a story, Vince. What happened when the smoking was banned from the restaurants? Did it help your business or did it kill the business?
It was goofy because it was like on airplanes, they'd say this seat forward is non-smoking and this back is, smoking. But it changed. It took a while for people to get used to it. I mean, people used to smoke cigars in the restaurants yourself, right?
Sure, right.
But it was just a matter of time until it became a law, because when you're trying to do it on your own, people didn't want to listen to it, But that changed and we got around it. It happens. It's better now. You want to smoke outside.
Yes.
Yeah,
I would tell you a funny story. A mutual friend that we both know, and he's not with us anymore, the great Mr. Palumbo, Mr. P, went down to Chili's in Naperville. And I remember I was working that night and Nick Caruso was at the door and Mr. P walked in and gave Nick, here's 500. He goes, what's that for? For the fine that I'm going to get when I light up my cigar. All right, that was it. I mean, that's just things that were happening at that time. And I'm going to tell you, restaurants have changed. Things have changed. You work in the one in Rosemont. Are you still with Gibson's now?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Let me ask you something real quick. What do you think the difference between the restaurants in the city and the restaurants in the suburbs? Big difference.
Culture. I will tell you this, that, it's all about culture. Chicago downtown is more, it's a mix of everything, but it's a mix of tourism, business, family, different things. I don't think the suburbs have as much tourism, so it's a lot more of the local people that live in the area.
Yes.
Those are the two differences. But at Gibson's, when you're inside one or the other, they're all, that was the idea of, with the architecture and the design, all that, to feel like you're downtown. So
absolutely, it gives you that atmosphere, which is great. So
yeah,
great fine dining. Okay, two more questions here, Rich. I know you're busy, so listen.
What's the capital of Wyoming?
You've met a lot of celebrities, politicians, even some popes and cardinals and stuff like that. And just tell me who you thought the coolest guy. I mean, when you were in awe when this guy or woman walked in to one of the restaurants.
I got to go with Sean Connery. He was in.
How cool is that?
And I'll try to tell you the short version, but they were in town filming The Untouchables. We knew he was coming. They was going to a room in the back, a private room. And when people were already there, he came in, and I just did my thing. Mr. Connery, it's a pleasure to have you here. And as I'm walking him to the room, I thought I would do him a favor, and I said, can I get a drink for you? He said, sure. So he ordered whatever he ordered. I bring him back to the room, and all I could think was martini, shake and not stir. And I had to go back to him and say, Mr. Connery, I told him, I said, all I could think is martini, shake and not stir. What is it, the drink that you have? But meeting him was, and then
did he drink that martini?
I can't answer that question. I don't know. No, it wasn't a martini.
So I can imagine that. That's James Bond, baby. Bond. Yeah. I mean, that's class. Sir Sean Connery, because he was knighted. All right, now let's go on the other opposite end. Biggest jerk.
Well, I can't. Really I don't know if I can answer that.
Yeah, not really a jerk. Let me phrase that. Just not as cool as you thought he was. It just wasn't maybe in a good mood that day. A man or a woman.
Well, I wouldn't say jerk, but I just will share this story with you. Carol Channing was in town, appearing in Hello, Dolly at the Schubert Theater. And I did like the little speech. I said, Miss Channing, she had walked into the party. I said, Mrs. Channing, it's really an honor to have you here. I'm the maitre d'. I just want to thank you for being here. She goes, does that mean you work here? I said, yeah. She goes, well, then can I have a Diet Coke? I said, okay, thank you.
Okay, so there you go. You were trying to be polite. You were trying to do the right thing. And they give you, can I have a Diet Coke? And I'm going to tell you another quick story real quick. Jerry Lewis came into Tavern on Rush with about a group of 10, 15 people. Benny told me their story. He walks in with 10 people. He sat down. They go, Mr. Lewis, are you guys hungry? Can we just get a sample of everything? And then we'll decide what we want. So, right? So they got it. And then they didn't order anything.
This is the business we've chosen.
Yeah, and I guess the next time he tried doing that, when he came in, they go, sorry, Mr. Lewis, it's not going to work. Let's just sample everything. It's not like you're getting a piece of cheese at Costco. It's like, what the hell? All right. Well, Vince, you had your hands in a lot of stuff, brother. You've been very busy, very fortunate. You've always been a good friend. Thank you for that. And I wish you a lot of luck, because I know you're one busy guy. You got the future going on. What do you got going on for the future?
Well, listen, I want to say thanks for being on the show, but you know what? I can't sit here and talk to you all day. I love you, Tony. See you later. I'm just busy. I apologize. Bye.
One busy guy. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Vince LoCascio. You can still see him at Gibson's in Rosemont. You're watching Ocean's Pit, the little show about big things.